She stepped out of the bedroom in a dress I'd never seen before, deep burgundy slit too high, heels she hadn't worn in years. I looked up from the TV and said nothing. That silence, that was my last bit of dignity. She adjusted her earrings in the hallway mirror like I wasn't even there. Then came the smirk. I'm going on a date. Try not to be too jealous. That was it. No fight, no explanation, just that. She turned and grabbed her keys while the ice in her glass rattled like laughter. I didn't ask where, I didn't ask who. I didn't even flinch. But I watched. I always watched. The moment the door closed, I stood up slowly like every bone in my body had aged 10 years and 10 seconds. I walked to the kitchen, poured the wine she was saving for a special occasion, and sat at the table, not to drink, but to think. She didn't take her phone charger. She did take her perfume. She didn't hesitate, not even for a second. I opened my laptop, searched one word, betrayal. I didn't get far. A notification popped up when I wasn't supposed to see. Her tablet had synced to the cloud again. Photos, dozens. No faces, just limbs. Hotel sheets. Mirror selfies with someone else's shadow in the corner. I didn't breathe. Not once. Then came the audio files. 3 of them, each more humiliating than the last. I hit play on the third, static, muffled whispers, then laughter. Hers, followed by a voice I recognized too well. He still doesn't know. Why would I tell him? He thinks I'm a book club. Poor guy, probably folding your laundry while we talk. She laughed again, and I swear to God, something broke inside me. Not shattered, not exploded, just bent so far it never bent back. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I did something worse. I planned. I opened her drawer, pulled out the journal she didn't know I read. Page 16, a date circled in hearts. Next Friday, a hotel name, a meeting time. I screenshotted everything, printed it, found it, even added tabs. And then for the first time in our entire relationship, I called her mother. E just wanted to confirm the family dinner next Friday. You'll all be there, right? She said, yes. Perfect. That gave me 7 days. 7 days to become the version of myself that she never imagined I had in me. And when the truth hits, it's not going to come like a slap. It's going to come like a funeral. The next morning, she acted like nothing had happened. Like she hadn't left wearing that dress. Like she hadn't smirked. Like she hadn't broken something in me with 9 words. She poured coffee, hummed a tune, asked if I'd seen her scarf. I said no. I watched her quietly. Every move she made looked choreographed now, like I was watching a stranger pretend to be my wife. She sat across from me at the table barefoot, scrolling her phone, smiling at messages that definitely weren't from me. The worst part wasn't the betrayal. It was how easy it was for her, how effortlessly she slipped into this dual life. She wore it like a second skin. I play my role too, kissed her on the cheek before leaving for work. And when I closed the front door, I didn't head to the office. I drove straight to a print shop and handed over a flash drive. The man at the counter looked at the files, blinked, and asked, "You sure you want this printed?" Front and back, bound tabs separating the conversations. Glossy cover, he nodded and said nothing more. That was day 1. By day 3, I had rerouted all our joint finances into a temporary holding account. Legally, quietly, I consulted a financial advisor I met through a friend, a divorce who now helped other men not lose everything to the people who had already taken too much from them emotionally. I wasn't bitter, not yet, just surgical. That night she came home late again. I asked if book club went well. She said, "Incredible discussion. I wish you could have been there." Then she kissed me, and for the first time in our marriage, I felt absolutely nothing. No spark, no just numbness. I watched her undress, change into pajamas, crawl into bed like she hadn't erased me already. She reached for her phone and I saw it, the name glowing in the corner of the screen. Tucker. Tucker had been at our wedding. Tucker had toasted to our forever. Tucker once cried on our couch after his own divorce. I'd handed him a beer, told him not every marriage ends badly, told him to hang in there. He'd been hanging in my bed. The irony, I wasn't even angry at him, not in the way people expect. I was angry at myself for not seeing it sooner, angry that I let kindness blind me. that I believed respect was something that couldn't be fake for this long, but she was a masterclass in deception. On day 5, I drove past the hotel from the photos. I walked into the lobby like I belonged there. I asked the front desk if I could confirm a reservation. I gave her name. The clerk, too distracted to think, nodded and gave me a time and a suite number. I left a tip and a thank you. Then I went to print shop again. 2 extra copies this time. One for him, one for her, each bound, clean, undeniable. I had no intention of exploding. That's not me. I'm not the man who yells. I'm the man who remembers everything, who writes things down, who shows not tells. And that's when the idea came to me. One final message before the collapse. The night before their little getaway, I snuck into the suite. I didn't break in. I booked the room beside it and slipped the envelope under the door. It simply said, "You're both invited, RSVP not required." Inside were the photos, the transcripts, a printed screenshot of the guest list for her family's dinner the next evening. The same night, she planned to be tangled in hotel sheets with someone I used to call friend. The last page had one line. "Smile for the camera. Room 406 has a perfect view." She still didn't know I'd seen everything, but tomorrow she'd find out that her audience wasn't just me. It was everyone. The next morning, she was unusually affectionate. She brought me coffee in bed, kissed my forehead, even wore that old hoodie of mine she used to call ugly but comforting. If I hadn't known any better, I'd have thought she was falling in love with me all over again. But I didn't know better. And now I knew why she was acting this way. She was trying to soothe her guilt, if she even felt any. She wanted the illusion of warmth before she disappeared into another man's arms later that night. I played my role again. I laughed, complimented her hair, told her she smelled amazing. When she asked if I'd be okay if she went out for a bit this evening to clear her head, I nodded with the kind of smile you give a child who lies poorly about eating dessert before dinner. She left the house around 6:30 p.m. wearing that same burgundy dress. I watch in the window unseen. She didn't glance back once. At 6:55, I pulled into the parking lot of Crannell's, the steakhouse where her parents were already seated with her 2 sisters and their husbands. The dinner had been scheduled weeks earlier. One of those routine family catch-ups that no one was excited about, but no one could avoid either. They looked surprised when they saw me walking alone. Her mum even asked, half laughing, "Did Nain get stuck doing her makeup again?" I smiled, something like that. I sat down, greeted everyone warmly, made polite conversation, even toasted with sparkling water since I claimed I was driving a lot lately. Then 10 minutes into the meal, I opened my bag and placed a single brown envelope in front of her mother. She looked at it confused. "What's this?" "A mistake," I said, "but not mine." I handed out the others, one for each family member, and instructed them not to open it yet. Nain's father, always suspicious by nature, squinted. "Curtis, what's going on?" I looked him in the eye. "Everything in those envelopes is time-stamped, backed up, and includes audio. You don't have to read it now. In fact, I prefer if you waited until she arrives." "She's coming here?" her younger sister asked. I nodded. "Oh yes, any minute now." I didn't tell them that she still believed she was heading to a luxury suite with Tucker. I didn't tell them that she'd find a note taped to the inside of the hotel room door. The dinner date changed. Dress appropriately. At 7:26 p.m., just as her mother began to ask another question, the restaurant's main door opened. There she was, hair curled, heels loud, and that same smirk that had started it all. Except this time, it evaporated the second she saw me. And then her family and the envelopes. She stopped walking. Her eyes darted between the table, the bag, the people she loved, and me. "Sit," I said. Not loud, not firm, just neutral. She didn't move. Her mother spoke next. "Nen, what's going on?" I could see the gears spinning behind her eyes. She was calculating, trying to decide whether to lie. Fake tears collapse, beg, or storm out. But she did something else. She laughed, a sharp, brittle sound that belonged more in a courtroom than a restaurant. "Oh my God," she said, forcing a smile. "Are you all really falling for this?" No one replied. I leaned forward. "You can tell them it's fake. You can tell them I'm insecure. You can even say I manipulated the audio." But once they read those, you'll never walk into this restaurant again without someone whispering behind a napkin. Her eyes narrowed. I placed one more envelope on the table, smaller, cream-colored, sealed with gold foil. "What's that?" she asked. I didn't answer. Her father did. "It's yours." She opened it slowly. Inside was a single sheet of paper, a printed image, a still frame from the hotel security camera. Her and Tucker embracing near the elevator, time-stamped 3:47 a.m. The expression on her face as she stared at it. It wasn't anger, it was panic. And then I whispered the one thing she never expected to hear. "Smile wider, the internet's not impressed yet." She dropped the envelope, but I wasn't done because this wasn't about a hotel or a friend or a dress. This was about everything she thought she could get away with. And I hadn't even shown her the real surprise yet. No one said a word for a while. Nain stood there frozen, one hand still clutching her purse, like it might help her disappear. Her mother flipped through the contents of the envelope, growing paler with each page. Her father had already pushed his chair back, rubbing his temples like a man who saw a car crash coming, but couldn't swerve in time. Her younger sister looked at me, eyes wide, whispering under a breath. "How long have you known?" I answered without looking away from Nain. Long enough to stop wondering if I was crazy, and long enough to know I was never the problem. That's when Nain finally moved. She stepped forward, pulled out a chair, and sat down at the table like she belonged there. Like nothing she'd done should stop this dinner from happening. "This is pathetic," she muttered. "You know what? If you were half the man Tucker was," her voice caught. I didn't move, but I leaned ever so slightly forward and said very quietly, "Say his name again, I dare you." Her lips snapped shut, but the room was already spinning off its axis. Everyone was talking at once now, asking questions, gasping over certain paragraphs, struggling to match the woman they thought they knew with the one they were reading about. That's when I pulled out my phone and hit play on the screen recording. I had spent hours compiling the materials, syncing devices, pulling from backups. She assumed I was too tech illiterate to understand. It was all there. Messages, voice notes, even search history. But the recording I played now, it wasn't one she ever expected to hear because it wasn't her who had sent it. It was Tucker. He'd been drunk, probably after she ghosted him and left a 2-minute voice message on her old tablet. But instead of confessing love or apologizing, he ranted, bitter, spiteful, and horrifyingly detailed. He talked about how easy it had been to manipulate her, how she needed drama like oxygen, and how she was just a beautiful mess wrapped in excuses. He said her husband was a soft target, and that the whole thing started out as a bet between him and another guy. A bet that he could get into her head faster than her heart. When I played the clip, the entire restaurant seemed to fall into silence. You could hear the clink of someone setting down a fork 2 tables over. Her mother gasped, her sister swore out loud, and Nain, she looked like she'd been slapped by a ghost. "I never," she started. "No," I cut in. "You never thought I'd find it. That's the part that really bothers you." She turned to her parents, desperate now, pleading with her eyes. "He's twisting this." He hacked me. I pulled out a small envelope, a business card inside, and passed it across the table, independent forensic tech. I had everything verified and time-stamped. Nothing's doctored. You want to know how deep this goes? Check the deleted files. Or the recovery bin she forgot existed on her tablet. Or maybe the app that records her location history. You'll see it matches the hotel visits perfectly. Nain stood. "No, I'm not doing this." Her father spoke then, voice heavy with rage. "Sit down." I had never heard him speak like that. Nan hadn't either. She hesitated halfway between standing and running. Her face was red now, eyes darting from her family to me, to the table full of evidence. I stood instead. "You know what's funny?" I said, sliding my phone into my coat pocket. "This dinner wasn't even the end game, just the preview." She looked confused, scared. "I'm not going to drag you through court. I'm not going to fight over who keeps the dog. And I'm definitely not going to beg for answers. I already have all of them." I looked at her parents. You raise someone who lies better than she breathes. And then I looked back at her, not with hatred, not with sadness, just clarity. But she's about to lose something even she didn't know she still had. I walked out before anyone else could speak because the next part of this wasn't for a dinner table. It was for her inbox, and when she opened it, she'd find a link. A link to a private video of herself, but she wouldn't remember recording it because she hadn't. She didn't text me that night, not even ask why or how or if I was serious. No, nothing. Just silence, like she'd vanished from the world. That was exactly what I needed, because the video I sent her wasn't just some trick or a bluff or a piece of security footage from a hotel hallway. No, it was far more personal than that. It had been recorded 4 months ago, back when she still pretended to love me. Back when her lies were so convincing, I questioned my own gut. And it had been hidden inside a smart home device she didn't even know had storage. I had bought a second-hand indoor security camera to monitor our dog while we were out. Small, discreet, tucked into the corner bookshelf in the living room behind some novels she never read. I had no real intention of spying on her. Not at first, but one afternoon while I was troubleshooting it from work, I accidentally clicked into the archive. That's when I saw them. It was a quiet weekday, mid-morning. I was supposed to be at the office, but I'd forgotten my phone charger and returned home without warning. That's when I saw her on the video alone, pacing in a robe, on the phone, laughing. And then Tucker appeared at the door. She opened it before he even knocked. What happened next was burned into my memory. Not just the visuals, but her words, her posture, the way she mocked me while pouring him a drink. The way she called me sweet but dumb. How she said she stayed with me because I was low maintenance and predictable, that I was safe. Tucker laughed. He said, "You know, he's probably at work thinking you're folding laundry or meal planning." She looked dead into the direction of the camera, not knowing it was there, and said, "He thinks I'm his wife." That's the funniest part. I never confronted her about it. Not that day, not that week. I just watched the entire betrayal play out silently, from beginning to end, with no interruptions, no doubt, and no way for her to twist it into something else. And now that video was in her inbox, unedited, uncut, titled, "You said this to him about me." She couldn't delete it. I disabled that function. She couldn't forward it without revealing herself. And she definitely couldn't explain it away. Not with the timestamp, not with the angle, not with a voice inflection. The next morning, she called. "I'll let it ring." Then she texted, "We need to talk, please." That video that was taken out of context. Out of context, that phrase broke something loose in my chest. Like all the little humiliations had finally stacked too high. I texted back only 2 words. Check Dropbox. Inside the Dropbox were folders, every message she'd ever sent to Tucker that I had access to. Voicemails, screen recordings, GPS logs showing her car parked at his house, even a copy of a doctor's bill she tried to hide, a medication she picked up under her maiden name. At the very bottom of the folder, one more video. This time it was me on screen. I had recorded it the night after the family dinner, sitting in our empty bedroom in front of the mirror she used to get ready for him. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just looked into the camera and said, "If you're watching this, it means you finally realized what you've done. Or at least you've run out of ways to hide it. You turn our marriage into performance art. Well, here's my final act. I'm not going to court. I'm not asking for a fight. I'm leaving the keys, the car, and the silence. And you can keep everything you took from me, because I've already taken back the one thing that matters. Myself." That was it. No mic drop. Not even just truth. 2 hours later, her sister called me. She was furious. Not at me, but at Nain. Said she'd seen the footage, the text, the file. Said she felt sick. "Curtis, I don't know how you stayed sane through this." I didn't answer because the truth was I hadn't. Not really. Something in me had broken quietly long before this ever went public. I'd just gotten good at hiding it. But now I was all exposed. And Nain, she wasn't done yet, because late that night, after everything had come crashing down, she showed up at my door. And in her hand was something I never expected her to bring back. She stood in the doorway like she hadn't set fire to everything. Hair pulled back, face bare, no jewelry, no games, just holding something in her hand that didn't belong to her. Not anymore. My high school journal, I hadn't seen it in years. It had been in a box buried beneath old coats in the hall closet, the kind of box you forget exists until someone goes digging with intent. "I found this," she said, holding it like evidence. And I read it. I didn't move. I didn't invite her in. I just stood there, the door barely cracked, the night pressing in behind her. "I wanted to remember who you were," she continued, her voice low, "before I ruined it." I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was so profoundly absurd that she thought this. This was a reasonable move after what she'd done. "Why are you here, Nan?" She looked down at the journal, flipped it open to a page I hadn't seen in decades. "You wrote about being scared, no one would ever choose you. That everyone always wanted someone louder, braver, that you were just the safe option." She looked up. "That's why I did it. Because I hated that it was true." There it was. Her first attempt at repackaging my pain as her justification. "You used my trauma as a cheat code for betrayal," I said coldly. "Impressive," she flinched. Then she stepped inside. I didn't stop her. Maybe I wanted to see where this would go. Maybe part of me needed to hear it. The final excuse, the final attempt at rewriting the story in her favor. She sat on the edge of the couch holding that journal like it was a dead bird. "I thought I'd feel powerful," she said, voice hollow, "being wanted by someone like him, someone who made me feel dangerous. But every time I came home, you were still kind, still folding my sweaters, still remembering I hate cinnamon, and that made me hate myself more." I stayed standing. She looked up at me again. "You were never boring, Curtis. You were just whole. And I didn't know how to live with that." "Then why didn't you leave?" I asked finally. "Why not just say it? Pack your things and go." Her answer came fast. "Because you never would have stopped me, and that would have made me feel worse." There was the cruelty wrapped in soft language. She wanted me to be the one who broke. She wanted me to scream, cry, collapse, so she could convince herself she was the victim of a love that drowned her. But I never gave her that. And now that she saw the wreckage she left behind, she had nothing to blame it on but herself. She stood, walked to the kitchen counter, and placed the journal down next to my keys. "I know you'll never take me back. I'm not here for that, but you need to know. I try to stop myself. I try to fix it." "No," I said, "you try not to get caught. That's not the same thing." She nodded slowly, then reached in her coat pocket and pulled out something else. A USB drive. My stomach turned. "What is that?" Her eyes glistened. "Insurance. Against what?" She stared at the floor. "Against him." Now I was listening. He recorded things, private things. Told me if I ever ghosted him, he'd send them to you. To my job, to my parents. Some of them I didn't even know he recorded. The blood drained from my face. "Tucker filmed you," she nodded. "He called it leverage." I stepped back from her. "And now you're giving that to me." She finally looked like she might cry. "I thought if I gave it to you, it might undo something. Even a little." I took the USB without another word. She moved the door. "I know I've already lost, but if you ever find a way to forgive me, even just to stop hating me, let me know." I didn't reply, just shut the door quietly behind her. Then I stared at the USB drive for a long time. I should have destroyed it, burned it, pretended it didn't exist, but I didn't. I plugged it in, and what I saw changed everything I thought I knew about Tucker. Because Nain wasn't the only person he recorded, and not everything on that drive was about her. The USB drive was small, silver, and scuffed on one side like it had been pocketed and fumbled 100 times. It felt heavier than it should have, like it carried more than just data, like it carried weight. The emotional kind, the kind that can't be measured in gigabytes. I plugged it into my laptop and stared at the folders. There were 6 of them, each one labeled only with a date. No names, no questions, just 6 different timestamps spanning the last 7 months. I opened the earliest one. At first, it was what I expected, a grainy video clearly filmed from a nightstand or a shelf showing Nain and Tucker. The angle was invasive. The audio was worse. I recognized her voice, her laugh, the same one she once saved for me. I watched maybe 10 seconds before pausing it. I didn't need more. I wasn't doing this to punish myself. I want to delete it. Pee-me screamed too, but something stopped me. I opened the second folder. This one wasn't of Nain. It was another woman entirely. Dark hair, younger, nervous even in how she walked. She looked like she wasn't sure why she was there. I didn't recognize her, but her discomfort was obvious. Then the audio kicked in, Tucker's voice, calm, manipulative. "You said you needed the job. I'm trying to help you. Just relax. No one will see this but me." My blood went cold. I skipped to the third folder. A different girl, same setup, same voice, different apartment. I realized in slow horror what I was watching. This wasn't just about infidelity. Tucker was a predator. He was using the same tactics he used on Nayan, only worse. He targeted vulnerable women, isolated them, recorded them without consent, and judging by the scared tone in some of the audio files, likely threatened them too. I opened a fifth folder and stopped breathing for a moment. It was Emily, our former babysitter. She'd watch her dog for a few weekends while we were out of town. College-aged, polite, always shy around me. I had no idea she'd even known Tucker beyond a few passing visits. But there she was, sitting uncomfortably on a couch. I recognized his. She looked terrified. And then the worst part, I heard my name. "Your boss's husband," Tucker said off camera. "You think he believe you? You think he even knows your last name?" Emily said nothing. She just wrapped her arms around herself and nodded like she knew resistance was pointless. That's why I shut the laptop. For the first time in this entire unraveling mess, I didn't feel betrayed. I felt complicit because I had let this man into my house. I had fed him dinner. I had laughed at his jokes. I had trusted him. And now I had a hard drive full of proof that he had not only taken advantage of my wife, but of at least 5 other women, possibly more. I texted Nayan. "Did you know about the others?" She responded 2 minutes later. "What others?" I sent one screenshot. Emily's face, mid-frame, clearly terrified. This time she didn't respond. I called Emily next. I didn't know what I would say, but I couldn't sit with it. She picked up after 3 rings. "Curtis," she sounded cautious. "Emily, this is going to sound crazy, but I know," she interrupted. "I figured you'd find out eventually. I didn't think he'd keep it. I didn't think he'd share it." I swallowed hard. "Why didn't you say anything?" "Because he said he'd ruin me," she replied. "He said you wouldn't believe me. Said your wife hated me already. That if I said anything, I'd be the one who lost everything." I felt sick. She was quiet for a moment, then asked, "Is Nain okay?" I almost laughed. "Define okay." There was silence. Then she added something I hadn't expected. "I am sorry. I should have told you sooner, but you were so decent. I didn't want to drag you into it. I thought you were the only one who didn't know." Her voice cracked. "But I guess now you do." After we hung up, I sat alone in the dark with the screen glowing. The folders were still open, the weight of it all pressed on my chest like I was underwater. This wasn't about betrayal anymore. This was about responsibility, about justice, about cleaning up a mess that didn't start with me, but now somehow belonged to me. And I knew what I had to do. I copied every file to a secure drive. Then I called someone I hadn't spoken to in years, my brother, a criminal defense attorney, and I said very clearly, "This isn't about a divorce anymore. It's bigger. I have evidence, a lot of it, and if I go down, I'm not going down alone." He paused, then replied, "Come by the office first thing, and don't tell anyone else." I met my brother at his law office early the next morning. We didn't hug. We rarely did. But the look he gave me said everything. "This isn't going to be easy, but you did the right thing." We spent 4 hours going through the files, every video, every transcript, every voice note. He didn't say much at first, just took notes, made backups, and asked questions like a surgeon probing for shrapnel. "You're not just sitting on a scandal," he said at one point. "You're sitting on a felony." He told me what to do, who to contact, what to say, and more importantly, what not to say. By noon, we had a plan, and by dusk, Tucker's name was flagged in a sealed submission to a contact in law enforcement my brother trusted. I didn't go to the cops myself. That part was out of my hands now, but it was in good hands. That night, Nain texted me again. He's threatening to leak it all, not just the videos, everything. Our conversations, your journal. Stuff I told him when I was angry. "Curtis, he's going nuclear." I stared at that message for a long time. I thought about all the things she'd said, done, broken, erased, and for a moment, a short one, I actually felt sorry for her because now she wasn't the one doing the manipulating anymore. She was just another person Tucker had used. I texted back only 2 words. Too late. She didn't respond. 3 days later, I got a call from my brother. They picked him up quietly. Won't hit the news until charges are filed. But he's not walking away from this. Kurt, you stopped him. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel proud. I felt clean. Like a storm had rolled through, wrecked the house, and then left everything strangely peaceful. I moved out a week later, not because I had to. The house was in my name, but because I didn't want to breathe air that still remembered her. I rented a place across town. Small, minimal, quiet, no share closets, no leftover perfume in the fabric of the walls. The divorce was uncontested. She didn't ask for anything. I think she knew she'd already taken enough. Months passed. I started running again. I took a pottery class. I read novels instead of emails. I slept through the night without waking up angry. And for the first time in years, I stopped checking over my shoulder for the next betrayal. I met someone eventually. Her name was Camille. She had kind eyes and a laugh that wasn't forced. We met at a bookstore over a copy of a forgotten novel. We both admitted we'd never finish. She asked if I wanted to grab coffee. I said yes. We didn't talk about exes. We talked about music and dogs and the way the world looks better when you're finally out of someone else's shadow. The first time she came in my apartment, she looked around and smiled. It feels peaceful in here. And that's when I knew I was finally free. Not just from Nayan, not just from Tucker, but from a version of myself who believed being quiet meant being weak, who thought loyalty meant staying even after the truth had rotted through the floorboards. That man was gone. What remained was someone honest, someone healing, someone whole. And for once, for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I needed to explain any of that to anyone because finally I had peace. And this time, I wasn't going to let anyone take it from